We'll begin with unit number 4 of the CIF in this lecture. The unit 4 is regarding the digital representation of the analog signals. So if you look at the modulation process, overall modulation process, we can divide that modulation process as your analog modulation and the digital modulation. We'll try to understand the process of digital communication from the perspective of the modulation, right? So modulation can be broadly categorized as analog, or you can say continuous modulation, and digital modulation. In analog and continuous modulation that we've already studied, we can further categorize it as amplitude modulation, and there are further different variants of amplitude modulation, that is your conventional AM, DSB-SC, SSB-SC, VSB, and so on. Okay, these are the different variants of the amplitude modulation. And further, the second type of analog or continuous type of modulation is your angle modulation. And different types of angle modulations include your frequency modulation, phase modulation. Okay, so these are the all different types of the analog or the continuous modulation that we have already studied. Now moving on to the digital part of the modulation schemes, we can divide the digital modulation techniques in further two different categories. One is your baseband modulation, or also known as pulse modulation. Okay, and the second one is band pass modulation. In case of pulse modulation or the baseband modulation, we can further divide it into two parts. One is your pulse analog modulation, and second one is your pulse digital modulation. Pulse analog modulation is further divided into three main categories, which are your PAM, PPM, and PWM. PAM stands for pulse amplitude modulation, PPM stands for pulse position modulation, PWM stands for pulse width modulation. And on the other hand, pulse digital modulation, it can be categorized broadly as PCM pulse code modulation, then DPCM differential pulse code modulation, then we have delta modulation and adaptive delta modulation. These are the different types of the pulse modulation, pulse analog modulation and pulse digital modulation. Similarly, on the other hand, in case of band pass modulation, the different and the you can say the mean, or you can say the different categories of band pass modulations are your ASK amplitude shift keying, PSK phase shift keying, and FSK frequency shift keying. And obviously there are several different variants of these ASK, PSKs and FSKs available with us, but these are the three main categories of the band pass modulation. Now let us understand what is the significance of each of these modulation techniques. We are well aware of the analog or the continuous type of modulation technique. In case of analog and continuous modulation technique, the message signal and the carrier signal, both are analog, or you can say continuous in nature. Both message and the carrier signal used were analog or continuous in nature, and depending on the different parameters, we can categorize this modulation scheme as amplitude modulation or angle modulation. We change the amplitude of the carrier signal in accordance to the continuous message signal, it is amplitude modulation, and there are several variants of it. Similarly, if we change the angle of that means the frequency or the phase of the carrier signal in accordance to the message signal, it becomes angle modulation, right? Now moving on to the digital part of the modulation schemes, the first category is the pulse modulation. Okay, so here what we do is we use carrier signal as a pulse train. Instead of continuous signal, it is a pulse train. Carrier signal in the form of the pulses. So it is also possible, we can say it is also possible to vary the amplitude, position and width of the pulse, right, which is your carrier wave, which is a periodic pulse train, or you can say the carrier wave. It is possible to vary the amplitude, position and width of this carrier pulse train in accordance to the message signal. And there are two different types of, you can say, the pulse modulation for the analog and digital, right? In case of pulse analog modulation, the carrier wave is periodic pulse train, all right, and the amplitude, position and width of the carrier pulse train are varied in accordance to the continuous manner corresponding to sample values of the continuous message signal. If we talk about pulse analog modulation, carrier signal is periodic pulse train, and we say that the amplitude, position and width of the carrier pulse train is varied in accordance to the samples of continuous message signal. And on the other hand, if we talk about the pulse digital modulation, you can see it is of three types, PCM, DPCM, delta modulation, and there's another variant of delta modulation, that is adaptive delta modulation. So in case of pulse digital modulation, the message signal is represented in the form of you can say digital data that is discrete in both time and amplitude. So the message signal is discrete in both time and amplitude. That means the message signal is not a continuous message signal, which was in the case of this pulse analog modulation, right? And the carrier signal is same, that is periodic pulse train. So we can say that in digital pulse modulation, the message signal is represented in a form that is discrete in both time and your amplitude, thus enabling it to be transmitted as a sequence of coded pulses. So this carrier signal, which is a periodic pulse train, it will be now a sequence of coded pulses in accordance to the discrete or digital message signal, right? So this type of modulation is known as pulse code modulation. Okay, and further types, that is DPCM and delta modulation, these are nothing but the variants of pulse code modulation. So we can say that this type of modulation, it has no continuous wave counterpart. This type of modulation does not have any continuous wave counterpart. PCM is the most commonly used type of this pulse digital modulation technique, and it has several applications that we are going to study further. So we can say that the four predominant methods of pulse modulation, in total, if we talk about pulse modulation. So four predominant method includes your pulse width modulation, pulse position modulation, pulse amplitude modulation, and pulse code modulation. So these are the four predominant method of the pulse modulation, irrespective of analog or digital pulse code modulation. Okay, we'll discuss about these predominant techniques in detail, but before that we need to understand the significance of digitizing an analog signal. How do we convert, first of all, how do we convert an analog signal to a digital signal, and then why do we convert the analog to digital signal? What are the application advantages of digital communication or digital signals in particular? So if we talk about the process of analog to digital conversion, it is a three-step process basically. The first step is the analog signal is converted into a digital form. The very first step for that is sampling. After sampling, what we get is a discrete time continuous valued signal. We get discrete time continuous valued signal. For example, if we have a continuous time signal, so after sampling we sample this signal for finite number of time instances. So what we get is this is discrete time instants are there, but continuous values, infinite values can be accommodated here. So after sampling we get discrete time continuous valued signal. So this process is known as sampling. The second step after sampling is quantization. Okay, so quantization means rounding off to a finite number of values. Here you can see that there are infinite number of amplitude levels. If we look at the sampled signal, there are infinite number of the sampled values. Okay, so rounding off these infinite values to a finite number of values is known as quantization. Quantization is rounding off the infinite sampled values to a finite number of values. Okay, this process is known as quantization, and after quantization we have discrete time and discrete amplitude signal. So after quantization we get discrete time and discrete amplitude signal. That means we have fixed number of levels now. Okay, so the number of levels are fixed. This is one level, this is second level, this is third level. The number of levels gets reduced to a finite value. Okay, this is the second process, second step. Third step is encoding. This is the final step. That is a sequence of bits, that 1 and 0 is assigned to different output of the quantizer. By encoding we mean that a sequence means ones and zeros is assigned to different output of quantizer. So each quantized value is assigned by a different sequence of ones and zeros. And since the output of quantizers were finite, so each sample of the signal can be represented by a finite number of bits. So these are the three important steps which are involved in analog to digital conversion of the signals. Okay, now moving on. Why do we need to digitize the digital signal, analog signals, or what are the advantages of digital communication? I'll list down several advantages of digital communication. Some of the advantages you are already familiar with. First advantage is noise immunity, you can say. Noise immunity. By noise immunity, we can say that the digital communication can withstand channel noise and distortion much better than the analog communication. Okay, digital communication can withstand channel noise and distortion much better than analog communication. Second one, that is the greatest advantage of digital communication, is use of regenerative repeaters in case of DC. Use of regenerative repeaters in digital communication. That means we call it as the greatest advantage of digital communication over analog communication, which is the viability of use of regenerative repeaters in the digital communication. In analog communication system, when a message signal propagates, it becomes progressively weaker as it travels along the channel, and whereas the cumulative channel noise and the signal distortion grows progressively stronger, right? And that will distort the received signal significantly. So consequently, the distance over which analog signal can be transmitted is limited by the initial transmission power. The initial transmission power has to be really very high so that the signal can be transmitted over a longer distance. So this is a constraint in case of the analog communication. But for digital communication, a long transmission path may also lead to the same kind of noise, cumulative noise and interferences. But the trick here is, however, we can set up repeater stations along the transmission path. In case of digital communication, we can set up repeater stations at distances short enough to be able to detect the signal pulses before the noise and distortion takes over. Okay, so this way digital messages, they can be transmitted over longer distance with greater reliability. That means, suppose if we have a long communication path between the transmitter and the receiver, so in between we will have multiple regenerative stations. These regenerative stations will receive the incoming signal, regenerate it digitally, and again retransmit the digital signal. So the effect of the noise during the transmission of this in this region of the channel can be overcome. Similarly, the effect of noise in this region will be overcome due to this station. So this regenerative stations is possible only in case of digital communication. That is one of the biggest advantage of digital communication. Moving on, the third advantage of digital communication is that the digital hardware implementation is flexible. Hardware implementation in particular, digital hardware implementation is flexible. That means we can use microprocessor, digital switching, integrated circuits easily. So hardware implementation is flexible. This is the another advantage. Moving on to the next advantage. The next advantage is that digital signals can be coded. Coding can be done to reduce the error rate. Error coding is very easy in case of digital communication to reduce the error rates. That is another advantage. Next is, it is easier and more efficient to multiplex several digital signals. Multiplexing of digital signals is easier. So that is another added advantage of digital communication. The next one is another advantage, which is quite important one, is digital signal storage is relatively easy and inexpensive. Digital signal storage is relatively easy and inexpensive. Digital signals are nothing but sequence of bits, zeros and ones, which are quite easy to store. Okay, and they can be stored very easily and inexpensively. While in case of analog communication, this is not the scenario. The signal storage is not that easy. Moreover, in case of digital communication, we can access the digital data or digital signal remotely through the electronic database. That is another advantage, right? Next one is the reproduction of digital messages can be extremely reliable without any distortion. So at the receiver end, we can easily detect the digital signals without much of the error. Is reliable. Okay, and another very important advantage is that the cost factor, the cost of digital hardware, it continues to you can say continues to half every 2 to 3 years. The cost is reducing to its half every 2 to 3 years, and the performance and the capacity is getting doubled in the same time period. So the cost of digital hardware is getting half in every 2 to 3 years, and the performance is getting doubled. So these are some of the advantages of digital communication, which are the reason why we are continuously moving towards the digital communication as compared to the analog communication. And we've also seen how do we what are the basic steps involved in conversion of an analog signal to digital signal. There are 3 basic steps: sampling, quantization, and encoding. Alright, so we'll discuss about the different modulation techniques, the pulse modulation techniques, different methods, different steps involved in the digitization of analog signals in the coming lectures. Thank you.